Okay, so we said 7. I just make sure everyone is around. Jill is out there, I see. Jill?
Yes, thanks, Matt.
Yeah. Rick?
Yep.
Patrick? Jesse?
Here.
Terry?
I am present.
And Steve?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
And Jim?
Present.
And Patrick?
You're
Need to
muted.
unmute.
You're on mute, Pat.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, George
Okay.
Allen. Does anybody at home speak English? Now muting. Now,
I still don't get that joke.
All right, so Terry, whenever you're ready,
I am ready when you are.
all right, great. All right, so we're going, we'll open with the Pledge of Allegiance, call to order and Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag of the United
the
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everyone. This is a work session with the Parks and Recreation Department on the Narragansett Town Beach policies, fees, and operations with a report on the 2020 season. And before turning this over to Steve Wright, our Parks and Rec Director, we have this every fall. We have this work session every fall in relatively soon after the season closes, so that we can get a feel for what happened, what happened at the beach, what the numbers looked like, what the attendance was like, what the revenue looked like. And it's very helpful to the council in determining if they want to change or stay with the policies that were enacted. So basically what it is Steve really just goes into a deep dive into the data and then makes recommendations to us. And those recommendations then will be voted on at one of our next 2 meetings. So I'm going to turn it over to Steve right now to do that, and then the council will just have a council discussion. If there's any questions, probably best we want to keep it fluid, but probably best to hold them unless it's something that you're really confused about. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Steve. Thank you, Steve, for all the work. I think the feedback's been positive from what I've heard from the residents about the beach. And I know that we had a lot of challenges this season, and we had mixed messages sometimes from the state, but in the end, I think the season was successful. And I do know, I'm just speaking for myself, that we got a lot of positive feedback. So I'm going to turn it over to Steve Wright, our Parks and Rec Director. Steve, why don't you go ahead?
Oh, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for the opportunity to once again do a workshop right after the season while it's fresh in everyone's mind. And before we get started with the PowerPoint slide presentation that the department's put together, I want to give a shout out to Fred Bartlett from Furman. Fred goes before you every single year in the council chambers to give the Parks and Recreation Department actually 2 checks. And this year, unfortunately, he couldn't do that because we're not meeting in person. And he dropped off 2 checks. $1,000 each to the Parks and Recreation Department, $1,000 and another $1,000, and that will go into the financial aid program to help kids here in town do recreation programs and go to our camps. So again, big shout out to Fred Bartlett for Furman for the last Firm Triathlon that was held last year for 2019. As you all know, that won't be going on any longer. So Fred, if you're out there listening, or if someone knows Fred, please give them a shout out because they're fabulous for many, many years here in town. So I wanted to start off by saying that Fred's been a big supporter of the beach. So if we can start off by sharing the 2020 year in review slide presentation, I'd like to get started. So Terry's going to be running this, and I'll be talking. And if you have any questions, please jump in as we go along. It might be a little bit different than we have in past years, but once we get started, we'll run along this as quickly as possible. So, I mean, the first thing I'd like to do, and I really want to go ahead with the next slide first, Terry. The first thing I want to do is I want to put a shout out to Bill Eckert, Mike Florio, Linda Bailey, Michelle Kershaw, and the entire beach staff for their daily commitment to the health and safety of our beach community. We have seen an incredible effort on the part of every single one of our employees to make the season possible. As you know, it's been a huge challenge with COVID-19 this year. And I've experienced it, we've all experienced it, and I think they did a remarkable job. And I also want to thank all of the Narragansett Recreation Advisory Board. They're here tonight. I believe they're here tonight. Chair Thomas Warren, Paul Roach, Thomas O'Rourke, Jan Cassetta, Joan Mulligan, Linda Peterson, Deborah Rinaldi, Council Liaison Rick Lemer, and School Committee Liaison Becky Durkin. So again, they helped with they've been helping the department for many, many years. They're an advisory board, but believe me, they help us tremendously. They guide us through a lot of these policies in pricing, and I can't thank them enough. So at the end of this meeting, I'd like to have at least Tom Warren, anyone on the Rec Advisory Board, speak up and assist with any questions that you may have. Next slide. So our mission has not changed at Narragansett Town Beach. It's to create a superior experience for beachgoers now and in the future with a safe and efficient beach operations that assure long-time sustainability and affordability. So how do we do that? How do we carry out the mission in Narragansett Town Beach? It's necessary to maintain and protect the quality of beach for sustaining the important ecological service it provides to the town, to recognize that the beach is a town asset, and as such, all policies, fees, parking, lockers, cabanas should first serve town resident and taxpayers. We also operate the beach as a self-sustaining financial enterprise that creates no additional tax burden on town residents. It's an enterprise fund. We say this every year and explain that to folks. It does not come out of your town taxes. It's an enterprise fund. We also ensure that fee structures are not only address annual expenses, but they also provide sufficient income to address longer-term capital requirements arising from building renovations, parking lot repairs, replacements, sand replenishment, storm damage, and erosion. And I also want to recognize, and this is a big question that we get every single year, that a land swap was performed in 1985 using the Land and Water Conservation Fund for the South County Museum. The use of these funds commits the beach to a public access and cannot restrict access to non-residents. Also want to say that non-residents also generate a significant revenue source, and you'll see that later on in the slide presentation. This slide we put up, and I put up to demonstrate the sliver of land that was used back in 1985 to swap for the South County Museum. And so it basically shows you the 6F beach lot. And so it basically is discrimination on basis of race, color, national origin, religion, or sex. And fees charged to non-residents cannot exceed twice the amount charged to residents. I also have a little paragraph. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but a lot of folks in town ask why the beach staff allow non-resident ADA plates into our lots on weekdays and weekends. We do charge them, but per Rhode Island state law, we were challenged a number of years ago, and we have to allow a valid ADA plate into our lots on any given day, but we do charge them the non-resident or the daily parking fee. So that's why I put this slide up. I just wanted to put that out there so our residents know, or our taxpayers know. That's why you do see, even in the paved lots on any given day, non-resident plates with valid ADA hang tags in their vehicles. Thank you, Terry. Next slide. So what are our beach priorities? Beach priorities continue and always will be customer satisfaction, customer safety, our residents, clean and well-maintained facilities, consistent policies with accountability, efficient beach operations, beach sustainability plan, and a beach capital development plan. So what does our success depend on? it's pretty basic. Patron safety along with excellent public relations. It's one of our top priorities, and it goes hand in hand, public safety and public relations. You know that Bill Eckerd and the beach staff, we every single day it's about public safety and public relations. We have over 125, 130 beach staff at that beach. We're working constantly for public relations and public safety, and also consistent policies and being responsive. There is no organization in this state or in this world that we make mistakes. But what I tell you, and I told you this every single year, at least since I've been here, is that we are responsive. So if you bring something to our attention and needs to be corrected, it's corrected the next day. I guarantee you that. If it's something that we have done, that our staff have done, we certainly do make mistakes. I make mistakes, but that's being human. But I can assure you that we have our residents, our taxpayers, and the visitors that come to our beach, your interests are our first priority. And that's why we say we try to be consistent in our policies and we try to be responsive immediately. And the third thing is clean facilities. Without clean facilities, we can't provide a clean, safe, and enjoyable beach experience. So what's that all added up to? Resident and patron satisfaction. So that's our goal every single year. We tweak it every year. We try to make it better every year. We look for input from you as residents. Our survey should be coming out in another day or two. We look forward to that survey. And we also look for input from our rec advisory board, which represents all of you. So again, we like that. We like the critiquing. We can take it. We're all, we do it every single year. And so that's what this workshop is for tonight. So we thank you all. Next slide, please. So what does our daily beach operations look like? Some people don't know where we start. We start by grading and raking our beach every single morning. That starts around 3:15 in the morning. And that is with our own parks maintenance division. So our own folks grade our beach every morning with a bobber beach rake. And then rubbish is removed by a contractor around the same time, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning before the beach starts. And then any seaweed, beach debris, seaweed, if it's all seaweed, we actually take it off-site. We don't dispose of it. We have people that take the seaweed from us. But if it's beach debris, then we'll take it to Rose Hill. That costs around $6,000 this year. Then 8:30 to 6 p.m., our lifeguards are on duty. As you know, we asked to curtail the 7:30 opening this year because of COVID, but we did because of the state having opening or shutting down their parking lots and restricting the use of their parking lots. We did try on some very severe weather weekends. We tried opening our lots by 7:30 3 times this year, and it was very successful. So as we indicated to the council and you approved it, we will be doing it in 2021, every single weekend and holiday starting next year. Our sales office, curbside sales only, we did do that from 9 to 5 before Memorial Day, and that was very successful. We were pushed into that. We're hoping to do an online sales for 2021, and then we were open with social distancing from 8:30 to 5:30 once we opened on June 6th. Our beach staff made PA announcements throughout the day regarding beach policies and COVID-19 social distancing. 8:30 to 5 each day, our South, North, and Cabana parking lots were open to resident taxpayers who were displaying season passes, hang tags, and West lot this year remained employee lot only. So 8:30 to 5, we had 6 admission sites. These sites were monitored for picture IDs, and we also for transferable passes and $10 day wristbands while keeping count with handheld counters of attendance for safe beach conditions. All sites were signed with social distancing information, and we also, on top of everything else we dealt with, we also had a water ban starting July 28th, and as you all know, we're still dealing with it today. Then from 8:30 to 7 p.m., we're open for deep beach operations and closed every restrooms are open every 2 hours to provide staff ability to clean and disinfect all 4 facilities while wearing proper PPEs. So we kept our restrooms open until 7 o'clock all summer long, and we closed them every 2 hours. And as far as the feedback I heard, We did an exceptional job this year. Bill Eckert and his staff did an exceptional job, and it's a credit to them because that is very, very difficult, particularly during these COVID times. All of our showers, picnic tables, and public surfaces were cleaned and disinfected throughout the day. And then 5 p.m. we stopped charging like we do every year. But the difference this year was we restricted our lots from 5 to 8 p.m. and we had security personnel and parking lot attendants restricting our lots to resident taxpayers and anyone that had a Narragansett driver's license. And our feedback to date, that was extremely successful. We kept a safe, enjoyable beach to the residents of this town right up through Labor Day. And then at 8 o'clock, other than on special nights where we still had our movie nights and our music nights, our staff vacated our lots and the property, and the CSOs closed and locked our lots after midnight. Thank you, Terry. So what were the policy changes for 2020? Non-resident parking was not available for 2020. All our parking lots were staffed with no fee residents for fee resident taxpayers and drivers for valid Narragansett licenses, like I said, from 5 to 8. We had 3 weekends due to extreme heat wave and governor restricting parking lots at our local beaches. So the town beach with lifeguards and all amenities were open until at 7:30. So we tried 3 weekends. It was very successful. I may add that the first 2 weekends, there were, and in fact, I have some numbers later on, I'll share those with you, but the first 2 weekends, people were caught off guard, and the last weekend, we did find that once people knew we were opening up at 7:30, there were a few more people gathering and on the beach at 7 o'clock in the morning or before we opened up at 7:30. Face coverings were required when on the pavilions, restrooms, concessions, sales office, cabanas, lockers, and changing rooms. And then obviously 6-foot social distancing was encouraged by security, signage, and PA announcements throughout the day. Thank you, Terry. We also joined up again with Raw Elements this year for 2020, but this year the difference was we had the touchless, Brian had the touchless sunscreen dispensers, and as this slide depicts, they were installed because of the late supply of these dispensers, but they was installed on July 11th, and 448 ounces of sunscreen were dispensed, and it was very successful. People love this program. They come to the beach, they don't have sunscreen. This is a great product. Raw Elements is a great company. It was started actually by a former chairman of the Rec Advisory Board, and this is our 4th year doing it. They're doing it at the state beaches now. We're very proud to host this product and this company at our town beach, and I can't say enough about this. So this pilot program that started at town beach is now not only at the state beaches here in Rhode Island, but throughout the country. So, you know, hats off to the Rec Advisory Board, hats off to Brian Gadagno, and I hope we can continue this for many years to come. So thank you to Brian. So COVID expenses, well, we had quite a few. I didn't list all the COVID expenses because we're still tallying these up, but I just wanted to give you an idea like everyone else had to deal with this year. We had to hire extra staffing to enforce enforcement for face coverings and security on our beach. We, as you noticed, we put electronic signage boards at each one of our parking lots. We rented those for the summer. I think they're leaving, should be out of there. If they're not out of there now, they will be this month. We obviously bought medical supplies, including hand sanitizers, N95 masks, face coverings, thermometers, and first aid supplies. Where we bought touchless sensors and valves in the men's and ladies' room at the South Pavilion. This picture depicts putting in plexiglass shields in the lifeguard stands. We purchased floor decals, also additional signage for pavilions and admission sites. And then I have another slide coming up where we had a big hit through the North Beach Clubhouse in Kinney Bungalow with a whole host of refunds for weddings and special events during COVID. So we put this slide up every year with comparisons between the previous year and 2020. So I wanted to, a lot of folks like to see some of the major comparisons. So obviously in 2019, we opened up on Memorial Day and we were weekends and holidays until June 10th on 2019 through Labor Day. Whereas unfortunately, we had to open up a little bit later because of we were waiting for policies from the governor's office and trying to get everything ready for trying to have a beach season under COVID policies in the governor's office and working with the town manager. So we opened up on June 6th. However, interesting enough, 92 beach days, as you'll see in 2019, we actually had 94 beach days under COVID for 2020. And that's because September Labor Day was a week later. So we actually gained a couple of days under 220. Interesting enough, we had 10 days of 92 beach days were closed due to rain or cloudy conditions. And we always, because we have a lot of tourists coming to town, people in town on vacation, we keep a skeleton staff of lifeguards on duty. Interesting enough, we had a phenomenal summer of warm weather this year, but we had 8 days where they either overcast or heavy fog, or we decided it wasn't worth keeping a large staff on and wasting a lot of payroll. So we closed for 8 days out of the 94. Last year, 2019, all 3 lots, when we were operating all 3 lots, south, north, and west lot, were closed 6 times, full 6 times out of 92 days. This year, obviously, as you know, we weren't running west lot, but we were running south and north lot. That filled 3 times this year. And then interesting enough, north lot was filled 13 times last year, and this year, north lot was filled 16 times. And that holds true with the number of sunny, hot beach days. It was a very hot summer. And as you can see, it averaged about an hour and a half to 2 hours when we were closed, typically between 11 and 1:30. And for the most part, if you go to the beach a lot, you'll see people waiting to get into the north lot, and actually south lot is actually open, but people choose to wait to get in the north lot, and that's their choice. So those are some interesting comparisons. There's your early opening slide. I wanted to mention this to you. In 2020, we opened up 3 weekends due to severe heat and the governor's reducing parking at Scarborough and Roger Wheeler State beaches. So we opened up on July 18th and 19th. There were 203 patrons prior to 7:30. So Bill Eckert, who's on tonight, and he's on, and you can certainly ask him any questions later because he was there on a daily basis throughout the summer. And a credit to all the success this summer to him and his staff. He would go out in the gator before 7:30 and actually count the number of people on the beach before. So all of these numbers I'm giving you are factual. We did not just put our head out the window and give an estimate. These are actual numbers that we're providing you tonight. So there were 203 patrons on the beach prior to 7:30 on the 18th and 275 on the 19th. Then the 25th and 26th, there were 25. There were 315 on the 25th and 300 on the 26th. And then 100 patrons on the 1st of August and 50 on the 2nd. So people were realizing that we were charging. So, and we list the parking lots, the number of parking spaces in the lots, just to give you an idea of what, how many spaces are available in Narragansett Town Beach. And I also like to list the number of spaces on the seawall, because people always wonder how many spaces are on the seawall, and there's 240 spaces. So that gives you a little idea about the early opening. And again, we are definitely going to be doing that next year on weekends and holidays, and will be consistent through the entire summer season. So this is the attendance, and I wanted to list, even though you might have a hard time seeing this, I wanted to list the attendance and how we came about this year. So Narragansett Town Beach has approximately 350 square feet of beach at high tide. So at low tide, we have 700,000 square feet. So we took 100 square feet per person, divided that into 350,000 square feet, comes out to 3,500 beach patrons. And so that's why we came up with a number back in the spring of a target for a typical beach day. But that would be our target. And so, like anything else, it's not a number that, and a lot of people question, are you at that number? Are you going to go above the number? You're going to below the number? And so what we were trying to tell folks is that if high tide was in the middle of the day, then Bill would constantly be getting, if you were there at the beach, we have a radio system where he would constantly be asking every one of those 6 admission sites to be calling in what their numbers were. And if it reached a critical number where it got close to 3,500 patrons on that beach and it was getting high tide, it was at noontime, he would back off and restrict the non-resident, the admissions, but we would always allow our residents and their guests access to our beach. So when you see that there were some 5014 and some 4169s and some other numbers in there, those are the days when the beach was at low tide and people were really social distancing, and in Bill's mind and the lifeguards' mind and senior staff, that we could spread people out. So that didn't happen that often, but what we felt and the staff felt, it was able to put more people on that beach. But it was and don't forget, there's an ebb and flow to that beach. People go early, they get there at 8:30, they leave at 11. More people come in and they leave. So, but those are the high numbers for the day. And so that number at the bottom is the total number of people that we tallied in. So each entrance, each of those 6 entrances had 2 tallies. They were handheld counters, 1 in, 1 out. So they were actually counting people in and out. I don't have attendance numbers for last year because we weren't taking attendance. We always compare revenue from year to year. But I can tell you, when we were running the trolley a number of years ago, we always got that question: what do you do? How many people do you hold onto that beach? And so you heard those numbers where we used to do 7,000 or 8,000 people on a busy weekday and 10,000 to 12,000 people on a busy weekend. Well, those numbers were accurate because we did, back in those days, wanted to answer those questions, and we did use those tally counters for busy weekdays and busy weekends, but we did not do it on a regular basis. So moving forward, it's Bill Eckert and myself, it's our intent to continue taking attendance as we do with the vehicle revenue and everything else we do. But I can assure you, and I can assure you right now, there is no other beach in New England that's providing the data that we do in this presentation tonight. So, it's as accurate as the information that's coming from each admission site. So is it perfect? But it's probably not perfect, but it's almost spot on. I can assure you that. So as far as the attendance is concerned, I think based on the summer and getting through Labor Day, I think it's pretty successful, and I think Bill did a tremendous job trying to keep these numbers down and within our target number throughout the summer season. So that's the attendance, and I can answer questions on that later on if you'd like. Next slide, please. Now some revenue comparisons. We do this every year. Miscellaneous receipts. I'm just going to fly through this unless you have some questions later on, but miscellaneous receipts and miscellaneous revenue is ATM commission, replacement cabana passes, reprint beach passes, lockers, and some sports bottles and surfboards and stuff that we sell at the sales office. So that would be our miscellaneous receipts. Adult season passes, you'll see that we sold a little bit more this year than last year, and youth season passes are up this year. You can see the difference between this year and last year, 7655 versus 8130. Interesting vehicle replacement pass, 108 last year for 535. This year was we only replaced 63 vehicle passes for 315. The big one here is seasonal parking sales. We sold 3,638 vehicle parking passes last year for 182,435. This year we sold 4,003 for 199,940. So another slide, the next slide, you're going to see that our revenue, because of COVID, is down. And one of the biggest factors is our daily parking sales. And that would because we were not selling in West Lot. And the reason is the daily parking sales. So last year is $226,750. Daily parking sales this year is $8,301. So where do we come up with the $8,301? Excuse me. That would be for the ADA parking that we were selling every single weekend and weekday to the non-residents who came in with the valid handicap parking hang tags. Daily emissions was down by 77,471, and that's the difference this year. Because what we found were people were still gaining access to the beach, but they were gaining access either by parking at the seawall or throughout town on nearby streets. Transferable passes, as you can see, we sold 118 versus 110 last year, and 3,014 versus 2,529. Now remember, this is a very good point. Last year we were selling up to 10 in 2019. This year we limited it to 5, and we still sold 3,014. So just keep that note. So that's some comparisons in revenue. Next slide, please, Terry. So again, just some other, these aren't all the revenue categories, but just again, I think there might be one duplication here, but clothing, there's a difference in clothing. We sell hats, we sell lanyards, hats, some other things at the sales office. There's the daily beach admission again, daily parking again, miscellaneous revenue, extra parking passes. There's a category for extra parking passes. There's a seasonal parking passes that we sell to our residents. Beach concerts, we didn't do the Philharmonic concert this year, so there's no revenue for that. That's a revenue category. But on the other side, the flip side, we didn't have any expense for the Philharmonic this year. And transferable passes, there's a total for the transferable passes. So if you look at the total for the revenue for the beach, daily beach revenue for this year is 1,471,479, with beach facilities at 638,9350, and the North Beach Clubhouse. Remember, these are calendar year revenues, not fiscal year. So when I show you the other slides, it'll be fiscal year. North Beach Clubhouse is down to $20,395, and we've also had to return $20,000 in refunds. So right now we're at $2,130,804 versus last year $2,529,197.60. So we're down about 18%. Next slide, please. So I just want to point out, as I say every year, these slides are fiscal year, not calendar year. So everything I've been talking about tonight is a calendar year. People can wrap themselves around calendar year because the beach season is this year, June 6th to Labor Day. And the fiscal year, the state and town fiscal year is from July 1st to June 30th. So these figures and these next few slides are fiscal year. So these categories here, the negatives would be our revenue. And so all they do is indicate what the actual revenue is from last July 1st through this June 30th. So next slide, please. And so what turned out to be was 193,947 in encumbrances or expenses, and 830,169 in revenue. And that would be the bottom line for the fiscal year. And so next year we'll be seeing this slide, And obviously it'll be down, and obviously down in revenue because of COVID. And the next slide, please, Terry. So the good thing is we have a healthy fund balance. We have a $4,634,556 in the healthy fund balance. So, and that's why we're able to be able to sustain the enterprise fund, because as you all know, after Hurricane Sandy, we depleted the fund balance, rebuilding the North Pavilion, and we've had fabulous years at the beach. We've been able to be conservative in how we operate the beach, and we've also been doing capital projects, but we've been doing them in a manner where we do one a year, and keeping this healthy fund balance, and we hope to be able to continue to do that. So, and that is Chris is not here tonight, but that is, I think this is an audited fund balance. So we're in good shape. Next slide, please. So I like to point out the salaries, the payroll every year. It's the beach is not cheap to run, and that's why when I tell you about operating the beach early in the morning to 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, when we do movies and people like to have the lockers open later and restrooms open later and the beach opened earlier, I have no problem doing any of that. I work for the town manager, we work for the town council, and our job is to run the beach as professionally as possible and to the best we possibly can. I just like to point out that what we do takes money to do it, and to do it the right way. And so, as you can see, this is the salaries just for June 7th, the week of June 7th through this Labor Day. And I had to estimate, actually, the estimate for the estimate that came in, I estimated a $5,600 for the last day. It actually came in at $7,889 for Labor Day. So you can see the payroll every single year. 2018 was $498, 2019 was $520, and this year it's $619. We could add a little bit more to that. But my point is the minimum wage keeps on going up. So the minimum wage is really hurting us. The minimum wage hurts us. And then when you do the minimum wage and on top of, extending our hours, we just have to absorb those, those fees. So again, I like to point that out. So if people ask, those are the weekly expenses for payroll. And it's worth it because, we have a great staff. Capital projects, always like to highlight the capital projects. So we have SAM reserve per year is $125,000. As you all know, this is something that the Record Advisory Board came up with a number of years ago. It's the best thing. And right after Hurricane Sandy, we actually had to borrow from the town general fund to pay for expenses that weren't related, that were related to the hurricane fund that we did not have in the beach fund. And so now this money comes out of the beach enterprise fund, and it's restricted within this fund. So we build it up every year. As you can see, it's $625,000 and adds up every single year. So now, but when the next storm hits, we have money that's not covered by our insurance that can help with dune restoration or anything that we need to match with FEMA. So it's great. It's a great fund, and it's great to be able to add that up. And so I think that in particular works out well. Every single year, we put in a little money on our beach to start up our beach season. But if I show you the chart every year, we're actually using less sand every year. This year we used 200 cubic yards of sand, and then we graded. We hire a dozer and 16 hours of grading, $8,000 this year. We also have URI doing shoreline mapping, and we have the results of that, and I can share that with you in another meeting. But that is something that we want to do at least for the first 3 years, and then maybe every couple of years. That's gonna be a roadmap to how much sand and where our beach is going in future years with the sea level rise. So that is a very good investment. And then we're doing we did our hands-free sensors and valves in the restrooms at South Pavilion. You just approved to do renovations at North Beach Clubhouse. And then starting on November 1st, we're doing renovations to the West and South Cabanas. And the future capital improvement projects will be the South Pavilion. The South Pavilion hasn't been touched in years. You go into those lockers, it's dark, it's dingy. And I think the folks that use, our residents that use the South Pavilion, we want to make that more enticing. And we have money for this year to be able to do the design. And that's the next project we want to get on board for another capital project. So we're excited about that. And I think, and then the other thing is once the Cabana project is done, we'd like to do something with that lot. Other than that, if you take a look at that beach, I think from the south lot all the way to the Cabanas, we've touched just about every single guardrail, building's been painted, dunes have been redone, fencing's been redone. So we've put the money back into that beach and renovated that beach. So, and there's still more to do. Next slide, please. Our lifeguards. You know, I say this every year. I've been doing this for 45 years. I don't want to tell you my age, but I've been doing this for 45 years. And these young men and women are the best. I am so proud to work with them. And this year was extremely challenging. So I typically don't put this kind of information out. I haven't done this before, but I wanted to tell you that this picture is them. If you've ever been to the beach, when they run the beach on 4th of July, they all carry flags on the beach, and it's a very proud moment in Narragansett Town Beach on 4th of July. But this year they did 4-person rescues. They did 20, 62 assists, 73 first aids with heat exhaustions, 34 missing children, all found. And then they made a decision on their own not to participate in the Rhode Island State Lifeguard Tournament due to concerns with their safety and the safety of the beach community. They did not want to participate in an outside tournament and then bring it back to our community. And I give them so much credit for that. So, you know, kudos to them, and they look forward to the tradition of excellence in 2021. So, you know, a big shout out to Gansett Surf Rescue if they're on board tonight. Next slide, please. So this is the last slide. So we met back in August, on August 19th with a rec advisory board. We took a look at everything we did this summer and past summers, and we what worked, what didn't work. We hashed it out for a while. These are suggestions for the council to take a look at, and so we, as I said to you earlier in the presentation, we were forced because of COVID into an online beach system, and we had to rush into it. But with our reservation system, Rec Pro, we feel, and we got positive feedback from most of our residents and taxpayers, that to be able to sit at home and purchase their passes, their parking passes and their admission passes at the comfort of their house, and have their passes sent to the mail to them before the beach season. And then for those who don't feel comfortable doing that, to be able to drive up to the sales office and have our staff help them, we can do a hybrid system and hopefully satisfy everybody. We're going to invest in some new computers. Our computers are outdated, and some new photo ID printers. But doing that, we already have the software system in place, and they can do that. We need to start a little earlier. We need to start January, February, because we got to get going on get the system implemented. But we're confident we can do it. We're confident we can. People will be a lot happier, and so we want to roll that out. As I said in the previous slide about our transferable passes, if you remember a number of years ago, the resident transferable passes were at $100. We kicked it around. because they're used and they're so popular, and people like them because they can use them for a number of reasons, for guests, for relatives, for friends, for people that are outside the town. We thought that the numbers are going up, that we thought that a small increase from $75 back to $100 was more than reasonable. And then the increase of the daily admission fee from $10 to $15, and then increase the daily parking fee, and instead of having two different fees, make the daily parking fee $20. As you all know, up until this year, on weekdays, we would use the south lot for non-resident parking up until a certain time in the afternoon, and then we would turn it back over to just resident parking when it got to around 25 space, 40 spaces. We feel that we would like to be able to recommend that all of our paved lots, Cabana Lot obviously, North Lot and South Lot, to keep those lots resident taxpayer only starting in 2021. And then if we are out of COVID, be able to open up the West Lot to a non-resident or to non-resident parking, as we've done in past years, 7 days a week. And then starting at 5 o'clock, we want to continue restricting our lots to resident taxpayer and anyone with a Narragansett license. And then at West Lot, keep that open for people that are non-residents. Because as I said to you, with the F6 policy, we want to be able to provide people that are non-residents access to our beach. And I think doing that provides our residents and taxpayers access to our lot, our paved lots after hours, a safe, easy access to our beach from after 5 o'clock. And we're not eliminating access to our lots. People can go across the street. They can access food trucks, special events. And I think that's a good compromise, because as I've said before, there's a balance here. And if we don't provide that balance, then we have to make up money in other ways. And we can't do that. We need to strike a balance. And we have to provide a balance for our tourists and our other guests that come into town. So I think this is a fair balance, and so I'll leave it at that. I think there's members of the Rec Advisory Board, the chairman, that may want to answer your questions, or myself, if you have any at this time.
Great, thank you, Steve. And thank you, Terry, for getting that up for us. I think it was a great season. In terms of questions or comments from the council members, let's go around the council members regarding the presentation and their thoughts. I know that Rick is the liaison to that committee, so I'll start with him, and I'll just go in the order we've been going at our regular meetings with the council members in terms of anybody if they have any comments or questions. So we turn over to Mr. Lima. Do you have anything?
So again, as you know, the advisory board has been discussing, the processes that we can implement that, again, gives our Narragansett residents and taxpayers the best beach that we can provide for them. And in knowing that, we also have to provide it for our outside patrons as well, surrounding communities. But I think that this plan that they've put together, came with a lot of thought, not only from the advisory board, but from Steve's staff, to implement what is being implemented here. So that, again, the beach, the biggest asset that we have, will maintain itself. The operation of it will continue. And we keep moving forward with being able to have the best beach in Rhode Island. So based on that, I've been in on all the meetings. I know the feelings of the people that have commented to the advisory board and the advisory board's feelings. So I'll let the other members of the council give their input. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Murray.
Patrick, you're muted. Patrick, you're muted.
All right. Okay, Steve,
Yes, sir.
if your increase in payroll, what was that, like 17, 18% this year because of the increase in minimum wage?
Well, it's a combination of minimum wage and the longer hours.
Right.
And added staff, obviously. We've added security staff, so it's a combination of all three.
Yeah, because of COVID and everything else. Are we getting any COVID money for this?
Well, I mean, anytime we're keeping track of anything COVID, but there's things that are eligible or not eligible. Right now, I'm not sure. That's something that we're dealing with Christine, and at this point, I'm not sure. But we're tracking it all.
I know you're at the calendar, another fiscal year, but would you say payroll is probably 20% more than last year with less attendance? Approximately, ballpark?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, but I mean, again, minimum wage. You've heard me say this for years.
Yeah.
There should be another tier of minimum wage. You have minimum wage that people need to live on, and then you need minimum wage coming out of school for seasonal jobs that are working at, ice cream places, and we can't.
Oh, understood.
Very difficult.
I don't have a problem with any of this, the changes suggested for 21. I mean, it's COVID-19. These are, geared toward that, expenses that, to staff, payroll increases. Number six, is that something that we would pull back in after COVID? Like 5 to 8 residents only, or?
Again, these are suggestions that we would recommend for a policy, policy change. Again, I think based on what we saw this year and the feedback we've been receiving from our residents and taxpayers, people have really enjoyed the idea of being able to come down after work. A lot of people come down after work to have access to the beach and having their beach clean, accessible, enjoyable, and we can still do that next year. I'm just saying, if we're out of COVID next year, and still provide the beach and all the amenities to our guests, but doing that with access across the street.
Right. Pushing the non-resident over to the west parking lot. I get that. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. That's it for now. Go ahead.
All right, Mr. Pugh.
Thank you. All right. A few questions here. Since looks like we have some pretty drastic changes in terms of fees. So I'm curious because there's no minutes out for that last rec advisory board meeting, so I can't see exactly what happened there. But Steve, can you kind of give us some insight into how these fees were proposed, where that came from?
Sure. So I'm gonna let, as far as the fees are concerned, I'm gonna let the chairman, if he's on, he can talk about the fees. It's because what I did was I presented my overview of the beach season and policies, and we talked about fees. And I'd like to have the rec advisory board chairman give you a snapshot on the fees and the discussion on the fees, if you wouldn't mind.
Tom, is Tom out there? Tom, if you can raise your hand, please.
Yes, Tom has been promoted to one of the panelists.
Right, Tom. You can have my seat. Sorry. I'll mute.
Steve, did you have a specific question for Mr. Warren?
So Tom, are you there?
No?
He doesn't appear to be muted.
I can move on. I can move on, and then if he's able to get on.
There was to answer your, to paraphrase or answer your question about fees, Councilman Pugh, the fees were discussed about the transferable fees were recommended by myself in the department on increasing them, and also limiting them to 5, because we thought back in 2000. You want to talk about transferable fees first?
That's fine. That's fine. Yep.
So, I'm sorry. Transferable fees were talked about first, I believe. And the big thing was last year we had offered a maximum of 10. And it was interesting because of COVID, we thought we'd restrict them to 5. And we found out that because 5 were being offered, we actually sold more. And what we find out, and it's fine with us, because what happens is it stays within the Narragansett family when people are buying them for family, friends, and whatever. So what we wanted to do is keep that number because it's manageable within the community at 5. Because we don't want to see that going. I don't think the beach can handle any more than 5 at this time, at least with the numbers we're seeing. So at that point, a 5 limit was discussed, and then going back to the number of 100, which was what we were at a couple of years ago. And so we talked about that, and that was fine. Then we talked about incremental steps in the fees, in the admission fee and the parking fee. And the entire board, and I can't speak for the entire board, but it's my belief the entire board felt compelled to raise the fee to 15 and 20.
For parking? You use 15 for the daily and 20
15
for
for admission and 20 for parking, yes.
the entire board?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And what was the rationale for that increase?
Because we haven't had a fee, we haven't had a fee for admissions. Last time the fee was admissions was 2018, and the last time for parking was 2011.
Okay, so 2 years.
2 years for fee admissions and parking was 2011, sir.
All right, and in 2018 we went from $8 to $10.
Yep.
Do you remember the previous time before that for an increase in the daily?
No, I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay, so if we're looking at the bigger picture, that would be almost 100% increase in a daily admission in like 3 years, right?
Yep.
So 100% increase.
Yep.
Is there any precedent for that in terms of our fee increases or in the history of the beach?
I'd have to go back and look at that, but I think parking there was at one time, yes.
For parking?
Yeah.
All right, because that last increase we did was about 25%, $2 increase. This would be a 50% increase. So totally not in line with any sort of incremental. It's really not tied to anything. It's not tied to inflation, market rates, anything like that. It's just completely random. Was there any discussion on how this would affect local businesses in the area?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
No discussion on that? All right, how about public relations? Because I know that was part of the, one of the goals was public relations. I'm just curious, this doesn't seem like really a great move in terms of public relations for the town. Definitely not
I can't speak for the Rec Advisory Board. That's what I'm saying. I cannot speak for them. That's why they should be speaking for themselves.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Attendance. So we're looking at, we had one day over 5,000. One day with over 5,000 people on the beach. And then we had 10 days where it was over 3,500. And then other than that, it looks like we're in a couple thousand on most days. And like you said, years back, we would get up to 7,000 or 8,000 during the week and 10,000 to 12,000 on the highest possible weekday.
Those are highest possible days, yes.
Yep. So
Well,
this is like half those peaks. In terms of the peaks, we're about half. So it looks like the policies that we put in place this year and the restrictions were actually pretty effective for what we were trying to do. So I'm still kind of curious what the reasoning is for the fee increases when the year went pretty much exactly how we wanted it to go in terms of safety, attendance, convenience, accessibility for the residents. I don't see the rationale for it. So what else do I have to say here? The $25 increase for the transferables. When it was 100, we were offering season passes to non-residents at that time. And we changed it to 75 because we got rid of those.
Well, we weren't selling, I mean, they were, yeah, but we weren't selling that many of them to non-residents.
We weren't selling a lot of season passes to non-residents? So, okay, that's a surprise to me. I thought that was like a huge deal that we stopped doing that. And then Councilor Murray came up with that compromise of doing those transferables at 75 so that residents could get those for their friends that were out of town. Guess not. All right. So that's a $25 increase. That would be a resident increase because the residents pay for those. So, we spent the last 2 years arguing about a $36 annual increase in taxes to do a new library. $36 as a taxpayer. That's what it would cost annually. For a resident now to buy a transferable pass, it's going to be another $25 for one pass. So is it about the money? Was the library about the money? Because this is going to cost residents $25 every time they buy a transferable pass. So if somebody has 3 kids that are adults that don't live in town, that had to move out of Narragansett because you can't afford to live here, and they come down in the summer and they want to go to the beach, and you want to have transferable passes for them, that's going to cost, if you buy 5 of them, $500. So it is a direct cost to residents as well. It's not just costing non-residents more money. The 5 to 8 for parking, I don't really know what that does. Those lots are not even close to full after 5 o'clock. Never, as long as I can remember, have I ever had an issue parking at the beach after 5 o'clock, except for the Philharmonic. So what's the reasoning behind stopping people from South Kingstown to be able to park in the parking lot after 5 when there's plenty of room?
I explained that earlier. I think the idea is that this year, folks have been very complimentary of having the lots available to them as they choose in and out of the paved lots. And if we do offer them access, it would be in the west lot next year in 2021.
But at 5 o'clock, there's no issue to get parking. Like, I mean, they're not even like, they're half full. So
that was this year.
Well, there's never an issue after 5 really, except for the Philharmonic maybe.
I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to sit here and dispute. I mean, listen. I am here to do whatever you folks decide to do. I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay.
I'm not arguing with you.
Okay.
That's a proposal. You do whatever you want to do.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So we're down about 400,000 in revenue, and we don't have the exact expenses yet because of the way our calendar works.
That's good.
Typically, right? So typically we're at like under 2 million in expenses on a typical year. Except for 2014, it looks like we went just over 2 million. But this year is going to be higher because we have the increased payroll. But would you say after you add everything up, are we going to be basically breaking even this year for that whole operation?
It's difficult to say. All I can tell you is what I'm giving you now are factual. I hesitate to even guess. What I know now is factual.
Okay. But, I just want to be clear because that we're down 400,000 is year over year. It's not about being down 400,000 in the overall operation. It's not a loss of 400,000 as an annual operation, right? That's just a year over year.
Right.
For revenue.
Right.
Revenue. Okay, got it. I guess the only other thing I would say, well, two things actually. The last 2 years we've done public comment during these workshops. I think it would be good to do that tonight as well, because I know a lot of people are on here. It's about 75 people, so it would be nice to take some public comment. And then I guess the only other thing I'll say is that when I have people that come to visit me, people from New York or any other state really, they come to Rhode Island, they come to Narragansett, what they always say is how down to earth Rhode Islanders are. It's kind of like everyone's warm, everyone's welcoming. It's very refreshing for people to feel that way when they come here. This is not in line with that kind of feeling. If you want to see what's going to happen when we raise these fees, because whether you say it's COVID or not, if these fees go up, they're never coming back down. They're never going to come back down from $15 a day if we raise them. And if you want to see what this beach is going to end up being, you can see that. Go to Connecticut or go to the Hamptons. You're going to see exactly what it becomes. It's going to be basically a private beach, a public private beach. So I'm fully against these changes. I'll just go on the record and say that. Thanks.
Ms. Lawler?
Okay, Steve, I think we're going to have a very different conversation than we just had. First of all, I just wanted to thank you and all your beach staff. What a difficult year. I've heard from so many people how grateful they were that our beach was less crowded this year, because many people said they felt safe going there. They didn't feel safe going anywhere. They went to the grocery store, they stayed at home. But because you had, with the recommendations of the rec board, and Tom Warren, I applaud your board for doing this, you made it so our residents could feel that they had a place to go at a very difficult time and felt safe. So to the fact that the beach parking lots were empty, that's a good thing, because we should be thinking about our residents. They should be our top priority about this beach as a town beach. We can't forget the fact that there are state beaches just down the road that people can walk on for free. They can take a bus, they can get dropped, they can walk on for free. This is about our beach. This is about a payroll that we need to make sure that we can hit. This is about potential dredging in the future that we need. So I think that what we did, every resident that I've spoken to has said, thank you so much for it. Thank you for making it as much resident friendly as it possibly can. Everyone understands that we require, because we did accept funding, to have non-residents. No one is trying to stop that. However, the residents have made it very clear to me, and I know to others thinking tonight, and I know there are many people tonight that want to speak on this. They were grateful we opened up at 7:30. The fact that you opened up a beach, and Steve, I thank you, and thank Bill Eckert for actually counting the amount of people on the beach early. That's something that we can hopefully avoid next year as well by opening up early. This beach should be about our town residents' experience, a town residents' safety, and that should be our top priority. And I'm glad to see it is. And again, thank you to Tom Warren and his group for making these recommendations. I stand behind every single one of them. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Hi, Steve. The thing that about the beach that we've been dealing with, and it's been probably the last 3 or 4 years, we got in the mid 2000 teens, I guess we'll call it the mid teens, there just was a lot of complaints about overcrowding on the beach, and people who were residents didn't feel that they were having the beach experience that they had had for most of their lives. And so these changes have really been over the last few years, where we've made it a much more resident friendly beach. And that's been the focus over the last, I'd say, 3 years, to make this a resident friendly beach. It's a town beach. And we want to make sure that our residents, right, who will pay the taxes in the town and are here, get that benefit from the town. And the daily parking was a big hit this year, as Steve highlighted. The daily parking took a big hit, and that's because we restricted the parking only to residents. So there's other places that you need to make that up, and the daily walk-on fee is one area. And I wasn't at the Rec Advisory Board meeting, but in my experience, my instinct is that they probably thought they would offset that loss. If we're not going to have parking in the north and south for non-residents, then the daily walk-on fee that's a place where you're going to have to make that up. And it's still a pretty good price for one of the best beach experiences that you can have, whether it's the $15 or the $20. So that's my instinct into it. I haven't had a personal conversation with Tom Warren, but I think these policies show a trend that we are looking at this beach as a town beach, a town asset, and we want the people of the town to be able to enjoy it. So I applaud you for that. In terms of the after 5 o'clock issue, there were many complaints over the last few years unrelated to coronavirus of a lot of crowding at that time as well. And people who worked basically said, even if I don't have a pass, I want to be able to pop into my own beach and show my driver's license at that time. So these have not been easy to get through. Steve's worked very hard on it. We've had many different times that this has been worked on. And I just want to thank you for that. The only real question I have is our fund balance in that 4 million range right now. Then the cabana replacement will be coming out of that, correct? Correct, Steve. Okay. All right. So we are able to absorb that project, which I think is important for our taxpayers to understand, and still have a healthy fund balance. Here. So good. I wanted to thank you for that. In terms of that, is Tom Warren out there, or someone from the rec committee, if they wanted to weigh in? Terry, did anyone from the rec committee, Tom?
So I have Mr. Warren available to speak and unmuted, but I'm not sure he can hear us. If there's another member of the Recreation Advisory Board that's on the call who would be willing to respond to the council's questions or give input, would you raise your hand, please?
While you're waiting, I just want to mention one other thing. You know, we didn't look, but we just want to put it out there. The resident daily, the resident season pass and the parking pass was reviewed. That hasn't been touched since 2011. And we didn't even look at that. And we had no intention of looking at that. So that hasn't been touched since 2011, that fee. And that has remained constant for all these years. $25 and $50 parking pass, $25 admission pass, the ID.
All right, good. Thank you. So in terms of
excuse me just a moment. I did move over member of the Recreation Advisory Board, Deb Rinaldi.
All right, great. Deb, can you hear us?
Waiting for her to unmute.
Okay.
There we go.
Hello.
Hi, Deb. It's Matt. If you just want to give us a synopsis of your meeting and what the thought process was. And my first question, I believe that you guys were unanimous in your recommendation. Is that correct?
Yes, we were.
Okay. And then if you can just share the rationale of what people and how that meeting kind of went at Rec Advisory, that would be great.
Right. We had a lengthy discussion with Steve's team, and I as well. I've also had the opportunity to be involved with the beach operations this summer, firsthand experience, and I have received so many positive responses from our taxpayers on complimenting the well-run operations of the beach this summer, and how we were doing due diligence with our face masks and keeping everyone safe and maintaining social distances. And I also had the opportunity to talk to many tourists, people from out of town that came into our beach and waited in line for many hours when we were shut down, and loved coming to the beach and didn't have any problem. I also talked to many of our guests from out of state and saying, you know, I don't mind parking on the side roads and paying that $35 ticket fee, because it's worth it for me to pay $35 in a ticket and still enjoy Narragansett Town Beach. I think the tourists that come to our community actually love our beach and enjoy what we have to offer, from our surf and rescue team to all the people who work at our beach who are complimentary to make it a wonderful experience.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so I think going up on the fee is reasonable. I've talked to a lot of other cities and towns and looking into what they're offering, and they're going up $30 for parking on their beaches. I think $20 for parking is very reasonable. Going up to $15 won't be any deterrent from not coming to support the town beach, because they absolutely love coming to Narragansett. You've got to remember that our town beach is publicized through New England magazines, national magazines saying, please come to Narragansett. We've got a gorgeous beach, and we maintain it well. Bill Eckert, who runs the beach, and Mike Florio, who's the head lifeguard, runs a top-notch surf and rescue team, which I'm proud to be able to say I'm a part of that team. And we have a lot to offer. And to go up on that fee is minimal, is what we're going up on. And we're maintaining our local fee of residence at $25 for a season pass, which I think is very reasonable. We're in the transferable package you made reference to. What I've seen, because I worked with field office early season, I know that a lot of non-tourism were people who are friends of South Kingstown, who know neighbors in Narragansett, who said, hey, I'll pay for the transferable pass. So I think we're allowing our neighbors to come to visit us, and it's a happy fee that they're happy to pay for. So I don't think it's a burden on the residents. It's not a residence burden. I think it's a complimentary fee that we're offering to our non-residents to come into the town of Narragansett. We have a great facility, a well-run staff, and Steve Wright oversees a fabulous team of workers, and I think you all should be proud of that. And I'm proud of that as a first-year employee of the town. So, in being a part of the rec board, I totally support what Steve has proposed to you guys. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to run down the council members in terms of providing any guidance for this as an agenda item based on what we heard and our observations from the summer. Just starting with Mr. Lima, if there's any of these recommendations, just what your general feelings on recommendations, if there's any that you would want tweaked, or if you would want them to go forward as an agenda item as is.
Well, as you know, Matt, I sit on the board, so I do listen to everybody. And again, this isn't something that somebody just rolls dice out on the table. This is well thought out. Again, the people that are on the rec advisory board, some of them are very long time residents here, and they use the facility. Some of them work there. And again, you know, these recommendations were put forth. And they were thought out on fees, and we looked at other areas. They really did their homework. when the questions came out about what do we raise the fees to, everybody had input and everybody had positive input, and they had information to back what they were talking about. So I am 100% supporting what the advisory board is putting forth for our beach. So that, again, there are outsiders that will come to the beach, but it's also to be able to maintain. I mean, Steve gave us the numbers, $100,000 just more in salary. It was 99,000 something, but $100,000 more just to keep the beach operational in the evening with the parking lots. So there are costs here. This year here, we allowed Steve to be able to, if he thought he could or couldn't, to be able to put the emergency money in. We're down some numbers, 18%. So this year we might not put any money into the emergency fund. And that emergency fund, as I explained to people, that should continue on. And when that gets into the millions, that's where you want it. You want it up there, because one disaster wipes out this town. And if you need to look at history, go back to 38 and 54 hurricanes. The water was halfway up Brown Street. So, you know, these are things you have to look for. You have to plan ahead. We're in a position right now where, again, look at the situation we're in, right? The state's 877 million in the hole before we even get going. We don't even know what type of funding we're going to get. So again, we're moving forward with a positive attitude of, yes, fees are going up, costs are going up. As Steve mentions, minimum wage goes up. And behind minimum wage just isn't the fact that we're going to pay somebody another $1 an hour. There's a lot behind that. There's workman's comp, there's taxes, there's a lot behind it. And if you have a business, you'd understand that very much so, that cost of $1 isn't $1. It becomes $3 and sometimes $4. So I support this 100%. And I hope that the council does as well. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Murray, did you have any of these that you thought, basically what were your thoughts on these? Were there any that you would change?
Yeah, I just had a couple more questions. Steve, what's the age cutoff, like where a kid gets in free?
11 and under, sir.
11 and under, okay. So I understand Jesse's concern. I mean, this town seems to want to block access to the ocean to the general public. But we gotta, I don't want to restrict the beach to a point where we have to start subsidizing the beach through property taxes. You know what I'm saying? And we're down 400,000 year over year. That's like 15%. A lot of that is payroll. And then we're restricting the transferable pass, which is going to be more lost revenue, correct?
Well, again, if we open up West Lot, if we were during COVID, that's $226,000 that we would have.
So that's half of what we lost.
The North Beach Clubhouse is part of that number. If COVID wasn't here, the North Beach Clubhouse wouldn't be, that number would be back in it.
Right.
So if it wasn't for COVID, we would have those numbers.
Sure. Okay, I just want to make sure. I mean, I don't know
when
this COVID is going to end. I mean, it might stick around for another year. Who knows? I mean, I have no idea. It's just that I don't want to, I don't want to create a private beach at the expense of property owners through property taxes. I know we're nowhere near there yet, but I don't want to head in that direction, because remember that $125K that we take out each year, we're not taking it out this year, correct? We
haven't yet, and we may not need to. We'll see when we close the books.
Right. Okay.
We haven't yet had to do that yet, but we can't restrict the beach, and that's what
I know. I know, but you're kind of moving the deck chairs around from the 5 to 8 parking. I got a little problem with that. I think I can live with it to see how it works out. But I mean, if I drive by there and there's 12 cars and 3 parking lots, I mean, I don't know what the goal here is. I mean, to restrict people from just driving across the street and parking. I mean, is it crowded at between 5 and 8? I drive by every now and then, but I never. Rarely do I go in there anymore.
Again, it's hard to compare this year versus 2000.
Right.
With all due respect, there's a whole population of people that show up at 5 o'clock
Yeah.
that use the amenities of the beach, that aren't paying for it, and a lot, and just my belief, there's a whole lot of people. And listen, I don't. We'll run the beach any way you want to. I'm just
No. Listen, you're the expert. All right.
I'm just
You're
telling
the
you.
expert. I want you to run the beach. If you think this is best for now, I will take that. Okay.
We can always.
This isn't a normal year. We have COVID. We got other craziness going on.
It's not normal.
I'm good with this, but this something can be adjusted later. We can always open up a middle parking lot for for non-residents, whatever, next year. So all this is flexible anyways for next year, correct?
It is.
Always. Okay. All right. No, I'm good. Thank you, sir, for your hard work and your staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the kind comments.
Mr. Pugh, you said you were against most of them. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I'm against most of them, except for the first one, which is the online sales. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm actually embarrassed these are even being talked about. 50% increase for no reason, nothing to do with COVID. It's an excuse to raise the fees. It's an excuse to limit parking, just like is happening all around town. That's what it is. And I'll be voting no. And in November, after the election, if I'm on the council, I'll put a motion up to reverse these fees. So, thanks.
Ms. Lawler?
The only question I have is really for Jim. One of the concerns I had with the beach parking was the potential for it to back up into the pier area. What was the experience with the pier area parking, with ticketing? Obviously concerned with the merchants and especially the Boone Street area. Should we be looking at maybe some parking restrictions as far as hours amount someone could park at, like say for instance, in certain areas of town? What do you recommend? What was your take from the town this summer?
We'd have to take a deeper study to see how many of the summonses were issued, where they were issued, and in business areas, all type of modifications to the parking regulations could be considered, from timing to timing where certain areas are no parking, maybe you should allow parking. Other areas there could be time restrictions. We have to study that. It's no direct answer to that, but anything could be adjusted in the parking regulations if the council sees fit to do it. And help from the police department would assist with that.
And we were able under the emergency ordinance to charge a $75 parking fee right now, Jim, for parking tickets?
That is correct. As for no parking zones were established as tow zones, which is a $75 fine, which is still considerably less than our bordering community at $150.
Do you have any type of recommendation, not for this year, but for years going forward? Should we take a look at that price? If it's less than bordering communities, is that something that you think we need to take a look at?
What we'll do, we'll research and prepare any documentation for the council that the council would like us to prepare for consideration.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I've got nothing more. And Steve, again, thank you so much for all the time, for all your staff, and for your presentation tonight. You're a professional.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, Steve. So the Beach Enterprise Fund, just so everybody knows, is funded with taxpayer. Is an enterprise fund, so it's not funded by the general fund of the taxpayers. It's the fees from people who are using the beach, and that's what you see. What is coming in from Steve here, and that has a balance right now of a little over $4 million. Several years ago, the taxpayers did have to help out because of the hurricane, but now it has a very healthy fund balance, and one of our jobs is to maintain that so the taxpayers don't have to pay for this, and it comes from fees that we get from the daily admissions and the parking and all that kind of stuff. So I just want people to be clear on that. And in terms of this, in terms of the next steps on this, the October 5th meeting, I believe Steve Wright is targeting to have the date to put this on right now. So the recommendations that have been put here, and that's the time at which the public is going to weigh in on that. Right now, this was a work session for the council and to give guidance to our clerk as to what we should be putting on and to Steve Wright. So I wanted to thank everyone. Thank you, Steve. October 5th, is that correct?
Correct, yep.
All right, everyone. So that concludes the work session, and everyone have a great night. Appreciate it. Thank you.